very warm welcome to Web TV. I'm your host, Terryanne, and we continue to have in-depth and insightful conversations around the key themes and topics that are happening here at the Africa CEO Forum Summit 2024, happening right here in Kigali, Rwanda. With me in studio now is Brelotte, the Deputy CEO and COO of Orange Middle East and Africa. Thank you so much for making time to speak with us this afternoon.
Thank you, Terryanne.
I guess first things first, the telco space has led the way in leading connectivity, e-commerce, and digital across the African continent. Perhaps just to kick off the conversation, how do you see the status of the telco industry across the continent?
Thank you. I think that we're in a very unique moment where the digital economy is really booming in Africa. Africa is the fastest growing continent in terms of penetration of mobile and internet services. And in 10 years back, we only had 1 out of 12 African that was using internet. Today, it's roughly 1 out of 3. So the journey has been tremendous. And on the fintech sides also, as we speak, Orange has 90 million customers that are using the mobile money out of 153 millions. So the numbers are really very big. And the good news is that what is ahead is even more exciting. We all know that the population of Africa will double between now and 2050. And it comes with very young populations that are very keen to use digital services. And penetration of smartphone also will increase. As we speak, we have basically 50% penetration of the smartphone, and by 2030 it will be more than 90% according to the figures of the GSMA. We all have our smartphone now, and in Africa, all these services are emerging thanks to the smartphone penetration and the applications that are behind. So for us, we see that in very soon, this will lead to a global, dynamic, digital space in Africa. And as Orange, our vision is really to provide to all the individuals and businesses the key to unlock this potential for digital. But of course, there are some challenges that we need to address. Infrastructure is one of them, and also usage gap. We have 600 million Africans that are covered by mobile broadband network but are not using it. So it comes down to affordability, to the skills. I think that maybe we can come back to it later on, and also to the local content. And we're working to make sure that smartphones are available, skills are provided to all Africans, so that we can talk about a very inclusive and digital continent. So this is also key.
All right. Brelotte, are these some of the topics that you have begun to engage with at the forum this year? What are some of the issues that have stood out for you? And what are some of the issues that maybe have not been brought to the table, but they should?
Well, I think that we've discussed about infrastructure, because this is the foundation of this digital economy. And of course, operators are at the heart, but not only, because it requires capital. It also requires a very bold partnership between private and public sector to make it happen. We know that there are $100 billion US dollars to be invested in the digital space between now and 2030. So this is a big number. And even though operators are invested, but we need to draw to the table public sector, private sectors, all the big players to make that to make sure that we can roll out the infrastructure. But not only that, help people seize all the opportunities of digital. We've discussed very largely AI and generative AI that will really drive this productivity across the continent. We've discussed B2C, but there's also a very big potential for enterprises that can seize the digital opportunity, use all these new technologies of cloud and AI to make sure that they are driving costs down, being more productive, enlarging their market, and this will definitely lead to very bold and successful enterprises, because one of the theme is how we can leverage on our assets to make sure that we can have a very prosperous continent. This is one point we've discussed, of course, financing, and I think that we can also discuss more about skills, talent, yes, and how we can make sure that Africans have the right talents to drive this digital inclusion.
Actually, let's talk about that now. The issue of talents and the demographic gap that Africa can benefit from was a key conversation at the opening yesterday with leaders like Moktar Diop, President Kagame, and some of the others also saying we need to relook at what our young people will be so that they are ready for what Africa will be in another 10 years. So perhaps you can tell us what are some of the things that you believe should be done from a skills perspective to equip the next generation of disruptors and innovators, so to speak.
Well, as you said, Africa has a very big potential as far as demographic is concerned. We have a very young population. They mentioned yesterday that very soon, 5 years from now, we will have the one-third of the global Gen Alpha population in the world. And these are young people that can use digital. And this is, of course, a big asset. To make sure that we can leverage on that, we need to work on skills. And let's not forget that today we have a global competition on skills. When you look at some of the critical skills on cloud computing, on cybersecurity, on digital software engineers, the competition is global. You can have, and since COVID and work from home, you can have this young engineer that is based in Kigali or in Nairobi or in Senegal that has the opportunity to work for big tech that is sitting there in the US or Europe, having a revenue in hard currency and working from home. Yeah. So we need not only to make sure that we give our young people the right competencies, but we also need to have attractive businesses in the continent to make sure that they will be staying there. And when we look at the key competencies, these are basically around software engineers, cloud computing, cybersecurity, and data and AI. Yes. AI will definitely be the game changer. I just give you an example. We all know the ChatGPT, the large language models that are using French or Arabic or English. But if we want to use it in our continent, we need to make sure that we have large language models that are working with Kenya, Rwanda, with Wolof or Fulani, okay? And this needs that we need to seize the opportunities, have local context in these technologies, and make sure that we can, for instance, in customer service, interact with our customers in their local languages, and this will drive inclusion. Coming back to what I said, digital is a reality in Africa. But what is, I think, at stake is to make sure that this digital is really inclusive and we don't leave anybody apart from this global trend. These 600 millions that are covered and not using, how we can come with relevant applications. And this comes to making sure that young people have the right skills to develop applications that are relevant, okay? If you have a farmer there in Ethiopia, and someone has developed an application to show him what are the potential for green in the landscape, where he can find easily water, then he will be eager to use the application and he will be included. So it means training people, coming with relevant applications that are that can serve their communities, and then we can enjoy the benefit of having local context, using all the economics for our continent, and make sure that you give opportunities to all these youngs, because this is also very important to make sure that our people can either create their enterprises or have the right skills to find a job.
All right. You've talked about inclusiveness, and we cannot talk about inclusiveness without talking about affordability, which you had mentioned before. Across the continent, we've seen the price of calls go substantially down through the years, but the cost of accessing the internet is still quite expensive, for most parts of Africa. What are some of the things that perhaps at Orange, that you're Orange in Francophone, Orange in on our English side, what are some of the things that you're doing to ensure affordability of all the services that are offered?
Yes. Before coming to the affordability, I just want to come back a little bit on the skills, because it's related. We really need to have the right services and then make them affordable. And on the right services, for instance, we have the Orange Digital Center within Orange in all our footprints in the 17 countries. And that are providing free training on coding, on all the new digital skills. And so far we have trained 1 million young Africans to be able to use these technologies. Okay. And we have also helped more than 200 startups to either in the beginning or in the financing, or help them finding new markets. So these communities will help coming with relevant services. And if services are relevant, then we can discuss about the cost. And costs should be addressed at different level. First, infrastructure. You know that Africa is a very big continent, 30 million square kilometer. We're not stressing it very much, but it's 3 times the size of the USA, 3 times the time of China, and that are big economics. And for us to make sure that we cover the continent, it requires lots of investment. And investment in very wide spaces. I was CEO in Mali and in Niger. All these countries have more than 1.2 million square kilometers, and to make sure that we have the fiber all across these countries, this is a big challenge. So we need to have infrastructures, and how we can drive the cost of infrastructures down is to have the right partnership. For instance, we can draw to the table the public sector, the private sector, find for instance, the cities that we want to connect, make sure that we have only one infrastructure that is redundant, instead of letting all the players invest, and then it will also increase the costs for usage. So cost of infrastructure is one point. Devices is another. And in Orange, we have partnered with a player to come with Sansa, which is a smartphone for less than $20. And this will really help to make sure that many can afford the devices, because the devices is the starting point. If they cannot afford a device that is 100 euros, this will not let them be included. So devices is important, and not only we're working it for the mobile, but also for the fixed, so that in the households we can have the CPEs, the fixed services. And in the same range, since we are launching is 5G in some countries, 5G is taking up. GSM is that by 2030 we will have 200 million connection in Africa. So how we can accelerate is to drive the costs down. 1 year back, the price of devices were more than 200 euros, and now we are at less than 100. So it means that we are really in the good path, and it also means that all the ecosystem should discuss the cost for the usage, and it of course include governments in terms of taxations. For instance, in many countries, in the device you will have the custom fees, 20 to 30%, and the VAT on top of that. So it increased the price by 50%. Can we waive all these taxes and have half price for the end user? That will be included, used, and eventually the government can benefit from this economy. So these are initiatives that are key, that can drive costs, but it really requires all the ecosystem, government, private sectors, to discuss and find a way to have the services that are more affordable to all the customers. And this will give positive digital economy for our continent, because it will be inclusive.
All right. So as we come to an end, one of the main conversations I think that's happening across all panels is the free market for Africa, the AFCFTA. And in a sense, the financial sector and the telco sector already led the way in cross-country businesses and understanding the African landscape from a telco perspective. Perhaps what are some of the lessons that you can share that enabled organizations such as yours scale the African continent, and some of these lessons that can be picked by both public and private sector as the continent works towards that free market area?
I'll give you an example. We have launched the super app Maxit in our different countries. By the end of this year, we will have the Maxit super app in all our markets. Maxit is an application, but not only an application, is really an ecosystem that will enable the customer to have all the services at the fingertip, be it e-commerce, access to content, payment services, and with the high penetration of smartphone, very soon this will be the mobile-centric service for all our customers. And we, with Maxit, we enable all these entrepreneurs to put their services in our super app and then interact with customers. And it will give them day one a global reach in all our footprints, instead of going in each and every country, trying to set their service, find a way to interact with customers, and we enable the whole ecosystem in it. So, but for this to let these entrepreneurs successful, we need to have a kind of a open market, so that if a farmer is in, for instance, somewhere in Cameroon, and he has services that are live in Maxit, he can address and sell to other countries. So this is an example where single regulation, single market can help all these entrepreneurs to leapfrog, because they will not have to build the infrastructure, they will not have to build the applications, but they can interact day one and have all the services that will help them, for instance, the payment, the KYC for customers, etc. So this is key. And coming back to what are the assets for Africa, size and demographic is one of them. Yeah. If you look at the very big players in the tech industry, they're enjoying that. Look at Meta, they have 3 billion active users a month, but it's not only in the US, they have this global reach. So we have the continent with 1.4 billions that will reach 2.5 billion. How we can leverage on this one single market, one single regulation, opening the digital space will definitely help in this regard.
All right. Thank you so much, Brelotte, for your insights and for making time to speak with us on Web TV. I have been speaking with Brelotte Ba, Deputy CEO and the COO of Orange Middle East and Africa, and we have touched on a lot of issues, including the state of Africa's telco sector and the role of the telco sector, not just in AFCFTA, but as in impacting social and economic development. Well, that's it for now. From Web TV, I'm your host, Terryanne, and we'll see you back here in just a moment.